I do love the roof in my PT. Could I sleep in the back of the panel van? Well, yes, I could. Could it be a micro camper? Maybe. Space for some storage, fridge, cooler box. Yeah. Could I convert the PT into a micro camper? Looks like it. Might just even work. Back in 2013, I had an ambitious plan. I've always loved the Chrysler PT Cruiser. I confess, I'm one of those Marmite guys. And I had a plan to convert a 5-door hatchback PT Cruiser into a 2-door panel van. And by summer 2014, the conversion was complete. And I took it off to picnic in the park, and it won Best Unique Modification. My one and only modified car trophy so far. And if I never win another one ever again, I will be quite happy. Thank you very much. So what do you do when your PT Cruiser panel van has been the same for a few years and you have 3 other car projects? Well, you start it again. And that's what I'm going to do. I want to redo the interior of the back of my PT panel van. Now I'm going to redo the panels on the side over there and over there. Going to do some proper insulation as well. Some more sound deadening, which is something that I've learned from the camper van conversion. I want it to be as quiet as possible. One of the things that I really didn't like about the way I had done the panels in the back before was having these wheel arches exposed in this grey 4-way stretch carpet. It's a pretty complex shape because it's not just a straight vertical here, it actually curves in. If you've ever seen a PT, you'll know that it's got quite a lovely curvaceous shape. And the tricky bit really is here at the back where the speaker is fitted into the D pillar. I don't want to change that. They're great speakers and their position is perfect. It makes the acoustics in the back of the van quite special. And then hopefully finding a way to conceal these wheel arches. Applying sound deadening to the inside of the panel. Leftover insulation from my camper van conversion, recycled plastic that's been made into an insulation foam. Stuff this into all of the cavities in the door. This will improve the acoustics even more. Believe it or not, the sound system in the PT Cruiser is very good. It's a 6-speaker system. This is going to just make it nice and quiet. And then I'll put some up here as well. Happy days. Should be nice, warm and snug in here. This is extremely well done from the factory, I've got to say. I don't know if this is the same as the American-made cruisers, but certainly for this one, which was made in Austria, the diesels were all made in Austria, by the way. It has this insulation on the tunnel already, which is like a felt-backed, rubber-faced insulation, so that's factory. You can see in the back here, on the tunnel, there is a little bit of sound deadening there already, which is awesome. There's some foam in here above the tunnel. And also behind the pedals, there's more of this felt-backed insulation sound deadening, which is pretty impressive. Now, as you can see, this is the factory sound deadening. There already is a thin layer of bitumen down here and over here. But as you can hear, it could do with a little bit of an improvement. So what I'm going to do is clean this, and then I'm going to put another layer of adhesive bitumen sound deadening over the top of the factory stuff, because this is, 20 odd years old now. It's probably lost a lot of its efficiency. I'm not going to go to the hassle of removing this with dry ice and all sorts of other things and create an absolute headache for myself. I'm just going to stick it over the top. Put a little bit of more sound deadening on the back of the firewall, on the floor, and then perhaps lay some felt down before I put the carpets in. This is the tool that I use to press down the bitumen, just a little simple roller. You get them in different widths. Got to get one of these, otherwise your hands will take a beating if you're going to insulate the bottom of a whole car or van. So this is the difference now with an extra layer of fresh sound deadening applied to the floor. That's with just the factory, and this is with the extra bit of sound deadening. So quite a difference. I'm just applying some sound deadening to this area which is underneath the front seat, which holds these two bolts. You can hear it makes a bit of noise. There's like an echo chamber underneath here. There you go. There is an argument that you will see online about how much sound deadening to put down on your floor and on the sides of your vehicle. I'm not doing 100% coverage, as you can see, but I'm doing a lot more than 60 to 70%. In my experience, I've found that the additional sound deadening does make a difference, but that's completely up to you. I'm trying to make my little van as quiet as possible. I joke about the fact that I'm trying to make it like a Rolls-Royce quiet. So quieter than a Golf. I'm going for a Rolls-Royce. I have now completed the right hand side of the vehicle. I'm going to move over to the left, which would be exactly the same process, and then I'm going to do the back. Be careful. The edges of this foil-backed bitumen is very sharp. If you're wondering what I'm using to clean the inside of the car before I put the sound deadening down, I'm just simply using a dishwashing liquid in warm water, because that's a very, very, very good and very cheap degreaser. So the plan is to put a leisure battery in here, just a small lithium iron phosphate one. So I will set up my dual charging system over here, because my main starter battery is underneath the passenger seat because there is no space in the engine bay. I'm not going to go to solar panels. I have a portable solar panel from Renergy, bearing in mind I have a full-blown camper van. So this is just for fun and for those kinds of drive-away car shows where I need to spend the night. Plus it'll be fun, much easier to stealth camp in this. Where I do find a little bit of surface rust, I'm using some rust remover from Genelite just to clean that up, because obviously what I don't want to do is lay the sound deadening over any rust spots. You get moisture in your van once upon a time, or moisture in your car once upon a time. It's been a really wet winter, or somebody's jet washed into your vehicle at a cleaning place, and then that moisture sits trapped underneath your carpet and you get a little bit of surface rust on the paint. So this is what I'm going to use to get rid of that. Just going to rub that over there. These rubber grommets that you can see in the floor are actually to drain the car if it fills up with water. All cars have had those. Passenger footwell. This is the felt that I have to put underneath the factory carpets. As I've pointed out before, the factory carpets do have felt underneath them already, but it's a lot more compressed than obviously it was when it was new. So I'm putting this felt underneath, and I've cut these lengths to go in the footwells. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to push this felt up against the firewall underneath the rubber insulation underneath the pedals there, just to reduce a little bit more of the engine noise coming in through the firewall. So I've got the felt going up underneath the rubber insulation at the front there. This is where the seat bolts down. Now the factory carpet will come up to this point, and then the rear section in the footwells from the back comes up underneath the seats as well. What I'm not going to do is run this insulation over that, because it'll just make it really difficult to get the bolts back in. I'm not going to stick this down because I want to be able to easily remove it in future if necessary. So there you go, that fits in there really beautifully. Just to hold it in place a little bit, I don't need it to be 100% secure, so that it doesn't shift around when I put the factory carpet over the top. And I've got this for here, but this will help reduce and dampen any of the noise that's coming up through the floor, and then the carpet will go over the top of it. Tuck that in underneath the trim, and it will reduce the vibrations of the trim against the body. Tuck this in nicely here. Excellent. Very happy with how that's progressing. So this is the right hand side factory carpet. You can see it's quite a tough, thin carpet with a rubber backing, thick rubber backing, which is really nice. And then it has this felt underneath. And then what I'm going to look to do is reinsert that, get that back underneath the pedals. I like the way that the carpet is all in separate pieces. I tell you what, this car is actually really well put together. Bearing in mind that Chrysler and Mercedes-Benz were effectively the same company at the time, this car is built like a Mercedes. And I mean that in every good sense. Fits perfectly. And now it's got all that extra insulation underneath there. When I put the rubber mat on the top of this, it'd be brilliant. See, it's got the little holes for the little stud there, holes for the seat mounts, and then the plugs for the airbag and the heating and power seats, power heated airbagged seats. Passenger side. Now this does not go under the battery, but it does go around the wiring. Sheesh. There you go. Happy days. Okay, it's a little bit bulgy with the new felt underneath, but it's going to be excellent. Door threshold trim. There we go. And that goes in there. Nice. And by the way, I forgot to put the console in, which I can do with the seats in, but it is a million times easier with the seats out, or at least one seat out. So I'm going to take the passenger seat out again, put the carpet in the rear, fit the center console, and then fit the passenger seat again. Here we are in the back of the panel cruiser. I have refitted the front seats. Front carpet is done after I've did the insulation and the sound deadening. I am now going to move on to doing the back. First thing I've done is vacuum everything again, clean it, rust treat any little bits of surface rust that are evident in here. This is a classic example of how factory sound deadening can wear out and diminish over time, but it is worn down almost completely here. This would have been under the rear seat, and that's underneath the bed in the back of my van. So it just goes to show that what might have started off as quite substantial from the factory 20 odd years ago, 30 odd years ago, sometimes even more, becomes very ineffective over time. Just another reason why I want to cover the rear part of my panel cruiser with this bitumen. Because what I'm going to do this time around is actually put the sound deadening down, then the felt, then the carpet, and then I'm going to put the wooden frame on top of the carpet. What I had before was the wooden frame laying directly onto the metal, and it's not screwed down, so there is going to be some vibration between the steel floor and the wooden frame. There you have it. The carpet is now in. The sides are insulated, so they've got sound deadening against the metal, then 100mm thick insulation, the pink stuff, and then I've got this 10mm thick reflective insulation over the top of that, which is adhesive, so that insulation will sit behind the paneling that I put up on the side of the van. And then the floor, as you saw, has got the sound deadening applied on the full length of the bed. Then I have the felt, and then I have the factory carpet. I'll put down the frame and then the floorboards and then the side panels. With the side panels in place, I'll be able to figure out how I'm going to do the shelving and the attachments behind the side panels against the side of the van. But first, time for a beer. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.